On this episode of AutoXandTrack, we are racing the Mustang again, this time at Laguna, Seca. I don't know if you'll show up in the sun. They got the cool corkscrew sign, Hollywood style up there. Got teched last night, passed, ready to race today, yeah. No practice sessions here with SCCA, so qualifying will be the first time out on Laguna Seca in this car, and the first time out since late 2015. So, again, my goals this weekend, have fun, don't be last, and have the car running just as good at the end of the weekend as it is right now. Like, no race incidents. It's funny, you know, the difference between running here with the SCCA with the car like this and going to like pro touring events like Optima or Can Class or whatever, is people walk up to this car nonstop and be like, man, this thing's nice. I mean, it's a race car. It's kind of like, you know, beat up, and you guys have seen this thing, you know, tons of chips because, well, it's been on track a lot. But around here, people are like, oh, that's too pretty. You better make sure that's still as pretty at the end of the weekend as it is right now, which makes you start going, dude, am I racing with a bunch of like hooligans or what? Anyways, so be a little more careful, I think, on traffic on this track. And Laguna Seca just has tons of elevation. Yeah, everybody knows the corkscrew, but part of the reason you have that big drop is because you got big hills to climb, and should be a fun track, fun in the Mustangs. Like in the Group 3 class, there's the Vintage Trans Am class and the Muscle Car class, and those two classes tend to run from like 145 to 149. So my goal in the Mustang is break into the 140s, and if I can get close to mid 140, great, but as long as I'm in the 140s, it'll be good. All right, can't talk long. Once again, I feel like I'm running late, so I'm in the car getting suited up to go out for qualifying. Let's do this. Well, the car's a lot quieter without the boom tube. I'm in the land of BMWs. I got BMW, and there's more. All right, here we go. First time in Laguna Seca in 7 years almost. Time to go out there and figure out where I'm going. Huge run group, almost 40 cars. Going? Okay, let's wasn't a hard hit, at least for me personally. I think the car's done, but we're good.
How you doing?
I'm good personally.
Okay.
You okay to get out?
I want to get out, yeah.
Yep. You're gonna have to crank a hard left, or we're not gonna clear the tire on this side. Okay, well, as long as you can see it. Well, I don't really even want to take this video, but I will, in case I actually want to show this later. Well, it's the day after. I've had a night to sleep on this whole thing. Not a very good night of sleep. Well, I've been awake since about 3:30 this morning. Laying in bed trying to distract myself from obsessing on this. And I thought, you know what, I'm gonna record this video before I go spend a bunch of time looking at footage, just to capture my thoughts based on memory of what happened, with time to kind of reflect. And truth is, immediately after the accident, you immediately start thinking about, you know, why did it happen? And, you know, my instinct was to try to find an excuse for why it happened. So, you know, I told a couple people, hey, it's the first time I drove the car without a wing. You know, I've never seen it snap oversteer. Basically almost doesn't oversteer at all with the wing on it. But, you know, the benefit of some time and calming down and not trying to think about this with adrenaline flowing through me. And what I started telling some of my friends later in the day is, the truth is, I don't know what happened. You know, as you'll see in the video, I did the warm-up lap at Laguna, and this happened on basically the first corner of the first hot lap. And that's corner number 2, because the corner number 1 is like a dog leg on the straightaway. And there were people on site yesterday that were quick to say, hey, you didn't warm up the tires. And that's true of a lot of people that spin out early in, you know, track days, races, whatever. But I'm running the Falcon 660s that I've run a bunch, and, you know, its predecessor that I've run, you know, on track days, hundreds if not thousands of laps on. And I followed the same MO, which is the tire's pretty much good to go on your first hot lap. Okay, I'm gonna pause the next day thoughts video here because some time has passed since this happened, and I have a pretty good idea now what happened. There's 2 reasons why I spun the car that day. 1, cold tires. I'll get back to that in a second. 2, intentionally driving the car out to the curbing, the white painted curbing at the edge of the track. those are the reasons why I spun the car. So one of the things, if you go back and look at the part of the video that shows the rear view of the car coming out of that corner, you'll see right where the spin initiates is right when that right rear tire touches the white painted curbing at the exit of turn 2. You know, kind of the disappointing part about this whole thing is that I was driving conservatively enough on that first lap that I actually steered the car to practice the line all the way out to the white curbing at the exit of the turn. And I didn't need to. There wasn't G-forces and speed pushing me there. I was just kind of trying to get myself visually acquainted with what I expected the proper line to be. And the most important element that I still didn't fully appreciate at that time of recording this day after video, or obviously during the track event, is how much the colder temperatures will affect even autocross tires at getting up to temp. And so I've, since this event, ran another event where it was 40 some degrees on the first session of the day and spun again in my car. And that's when the light bulb moment went off of like, holy cow, there's no grip even after that other event was again on the first hot lap. So I'd done a full warm-up lap. I'd actually done a half of a, kind of hot lap and was getting a point by in a section of the track. I thought, oh, should I go or not? It's a low grip area. And I decided I'm driving slow enough, let's go. And then spun anyways. And it's because, I have never really run any competitive events when it's only 40 to 50 degrees out. I've done lots of high 50s and certainly 60 degrees, but there's a big difference when you start getting down into those temperature ranges, and it just takes the tire more time to heat up, and there's less total grip because the track surface temp is not there yet either. And so this was the first session, morning Laguna Seca. It was very cold that night. It was down into the low mid 30 degrees. When I woke up that morning, the car is completely covered in dew. I didn't appreciate at the time that an autocross focused tire or 212-hour tire could require more than one lap to really get up to temp. And yeah, it turns out you knock another 10 degrees off the ambient air temps than what I previously was used to, and it can happen. And I really didn't learn that until, like I said, at another event when I spun out again on a cold day. And then to kind of add insult to injury, by intentionally driving the car out to that white curbing and allowing that right rear tire to touch the low grip surface while adding power, the car just snapped oversteered. So I thought it would make sense to interject why I truly think I spun that day. Wish I could have caught the spin faster, but I didn't. And so I did finally learn something through all this. Let's get back to the day after thoughts and the video wrap up. A big reason I bought this car was having done so many track days and so many time trials events in the Camaro with limited or virtually non-existent safety gears as judged by racing standards. It began to weigh on me, and I thought, why am I out here risking this car and myself on these tracks? There's a better way, and my buddy was telling me how cheap you could pick up some of these used cars, race cars, and started looking at them and thinking that's the way to go. Buy something that's already fully caged, that's got all the safety equipment, fire suppression, full harness, Hans and neck, head and neck restraint, the whole 9 yards. And so that's why it's a big reason why I bought this car. But I bought it with the thought that it would allow me to be more aggressive on the track, push the limit a little more, because I'm a fairly conservative track driver. Before this accident, I've never spun off into the dirt. I've driven off into the dirt a couple times intentionally, once from a mechanical failure and once from an on-track spin to recover. But, I was not being aggressive when this happened. And So it's frustrating because I don't know why it happened really well, and it's frustrating because I know I wasn't pushing hard, which was part of the reason I bought this car, so that if something like this happened, at least I'd be safe. But I didn't even benefit from trying to gain knowledge and experience. And so, you know, I think one of the questions everybody's going to want to know is the car savable, and do I plan to fix it? And I can't answer either of those questions definitively yet. Now, having the car in the garage, good lighting, time to look it over calmly, the frame rails are bent. I can't really capture that on camera until I get the sheet metal out of the way, but it's extremely obvious that forward of the cross member, you know, the frame horns are absolutely bent. It probably won't show up, but if I look at the straight line that this frame rail makes up to the cross member, it pretty violently shears to the right here. And you can see the angle of the sway bar mount to the coil. The sway bar is angled slightly towards the driver's side, while this side is closer to straight up. So I'm not going to spend too much time trying to talk about the frame there because it's too hard to see. You know, you can tell that the frame stayed a hell of a lot straighter than the body did. You know, not having the shock towers honestly probably saved me from bending the frame further, because there's a lot less structure tied into the frame from the sheet metal in this car. So, you know, small blessings, I guess. If they're only bent forward of the cross member and suspension mounting points, then, you know, it's probably easier to bend those back, and it's not as structurally important to the performance of the car and the structural integrity of the car. I mean, the only suspension part in that is the sway bar, and if I had to, worst case scenario, if it ended up being still off an 1/8 or a 1/4 inch, you just adjust the sway bar mounting. But if it's off from the firewall, you know, I don't know. So in the next video on this car, we're going to tear it apart. I'm going to start taking all the sheet metal off, at least the stuff that bolts on, you know, the fenders, front core support, grille, and all that. The inner fenders are structural. When I bought this car, they had already been replaced once. You can see where they cut and welded on there, and it's the same story on that side. So these are not original to the car. It did take a front end hit once before. In fact, they've already replaced at least one of the frame rails, because this Mustang might be cursed. The guy that built it, I need to double check the logbook, but the guy that built it for his friend, the owner, and the builder drove it twice in time trials with NASA, according to the logbook, before the owner drove it. And then the first time the owner drove it, he hit a wall. So this car probably looks something like it did back then. So it's, you know, it's fixable if you have the time and money. Oh yeah, you know, well, I'll save these thoughts for the next video. So if you guys made it this far in the video, thanks for watching. You know, if I should fix it, maybe I should finally start selling some merch to help pay for the damn cost of this car. I don't know. Thank you for watching. Share the videos with your friends. I appreciate it. That's a wrap.